Hello and welcome to another video. My name's Ben Hales with Transform My Poker, and today's theme, you can see, is what to do with Ace King when you miss the flop. And it's a feeling we know very well, isn't it? We raise up with our Ace King, maybe we're 3-betting pre-flop, maybe we're just raising, and there's no Ace or King. And it's what to do, how often is a continuation bet going to be the correct thing to do, and how often are we just wasting money? And it can be a frustrating hand because we have such expectations of it, don't we? We don't pick up great hands very often pre-flop, and when we do, we kind of want to get paid. So it's about managing our expectation and understanding what changes when you miss the flop and how the strength of your hand and your situation changes. And that's what we're going to cover off today. Ace King has various nicknames. The Big Slick, an old one that you might not remember, Anna Kournikova. Yeah, people used to say Ace King's like Anna Kournikova because, I don't know if you remember, she was a really hot tennis player a couple of decades ago. And she looked good but didn't win that much. And it's a bit like Ace King, you get it and you're like, oh, it feels great, doesn't it? Especially when it's suited, it looks great, but doesn't seem to win as often as you feel it should. So I think it's very important to understand how often Ace King should really win. So the perception is that Ace King doesn't win as often as it should, but it should only win 65% of the time against a random hand. That's less than 2 out of 3 times. And when your opponents are choosing narrower ranges than a random hand, then obviously your equity is going to drop. It doesn't drop much below 50% until you get really narrow ranges against you. So it's usually in good shape, but you're simply not gonna do that well with Ace King. It's not like Ace Ace with equity in the 80s. It's considerably less than that, and it's important to bear that in mind when you're playing the hand. Now, if you miss the flop, your equity against a random hand drops to around 51%. Okay, or 35% against 2 random hands. So if you've got 2 callers pre-flop, flop comes down, no Ace or King, you end up at a showdown, you're only going to win 35% of them. That's not great. Yeah? So knowing these numbers puts in perspective how often we should expect Ace King to really win. And that is perhaps not quite as often as people think it's going to win. On the other hand, it very rarely does badly against any ranges other than those really super tight ones, like someone playing aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace, king. As soon as they start putting ace, queen, ace, jack in their ranges, your ace king's in good shape, usually. So that's the showdown equity part of Ace King. Let's just compare that now with what happens to our fold equity or non-showdown equity. So this is the stuff where when we bet and we make someone fold, how much money we're going to make. When we make a continuation bet against one opponent, it will work around about 45 to 50% of the time. Okay? So it's a good thing to do. Regardless of your hand, it's making quite a lot of money. Similarly, it'll make money against 2 opponents, but then against 3 opponents, it's not going to work often enough to make money. I'm not going to go through the maths of what making money means right now, but just suffice to say that your fold equity is really, really good when you've got 1 opponent. It's quite good when you've got 2 opponents, or at least break even. And then when you've got 3 opponents, it's not good enough just on its own. So you need to combine it with your showdown equity in order to make it worthwhile. And that's what we're really doing when we're making a bet with ace king when we miss the flop. We're combining the fact that we might make our opponents fold with the fact that our hand could improve if they call. And we do have 6 outs. We do have some showdown equity. I think there are other things we need to bear in mind. One, how has the board hit my range? So we're not just playing ace king, we're playing an opening range. Overall, out of the hands I would be playing in this spot, how has my hand hit it? If the board is 7-3-2, we've probably not hit that board very hard, right? So should we be continuation betting? Maybe not every time. If our range was aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace king, maybe we should be c-betting whatever the board is, right? So a lot depends on your range and how the board comes down, how it's going to be interpreted by your opponent. You also want to think about how the boards hit your opponent's range, so do a similar thing, but for your opponent. Who's going to be in position on the turn in the river? So are you in position? Okay, then there's 2 questions that go together. Can I make worse hands call, or can I make better hands fold? Because you really need at least one of these to be true before you should justify betting. And that's always the case, right? These 2 questions, great things to have on your checklist. Can I make worse hand call? Can I make better hand fold? If the answer to both is no, then you haven't got a reason for betting, okay? Because one of these must be your reason for betting. And then finally, plan for the turn in the river. So are you going to double barrel when you miss? Are you going to triple barrel with a bluff if you miss the turn? Or are you going to check fold? What's your game plan for different types of turn and river cards? Very important as well, because it may shape your decision on the flop if you're thinking about what's going to happen on the turn and the river. Okay, now we've got the background stuff out of the way. These are the facts. You should be continuation betting with ace king on 90% plus of missed boards. There are not that many circumstances when it's not worth making your c-bet. You've got a bag load of fold equity, bag loads of showdown equity. Get betting. Second point, you should be firing again on the turn and the river fairly often. You've still got showdown equity. You've probably got fold equity going on. Assess the situation for sure. Sometimes it's time to slow down, but the mistake most people make too much is not firing on the turn and the river often enough. Now, I can't say for sure, but from experience, you're probably not being aggressive enough with ace king. Most people are not, all right? So if in doubt, practice being more aggressive with this hand. Now, with all that having been said, I want to express a few times when double barreling, triple barreling might not be the right thing to do. All right? The times when I might slow down, when my opponent is the aggressor in the hand, really, really important reason for maybe stepping back, letting them make the bets. When my opponent's range is super narrow. So if I miss the flop and I decide my opponent is just so strong, he's playing really, really good hands, there's no way of making him fold. I'm just bloating the pot and throwing in more money. Yeah, good reason for slowing down. Third one, if you arrive at the turn card and your opponent is really a tight player, you've got to ask yourself the question why he's still there. If he's got at least top pair, you're probably not going to get rid of him with another bet. You need to really think things through. Are you prepared to fire at turn and river? Or is this time to slow down? And I already mentioned before that when you have 3 opponents, that might be too many. It might not, though. It might still be worth making the bet. So assess the situation carefully. But this is the point at which normally, betting again starts to be a bit dodgy. Two opponents, generally, you should fire again. Three opponents, normally, maybe not. Very quickly, I want to demonstrate a hand. Alright, so I'm playing in a 6 max sit and go tournament. I've raised it up with ace king and isolated to one opponent. I'm out of position on the cutoff against the button. The effective stack is his stack, and there's 400 in the middle now with 1,100 left behind. So the ratio between the stack and the effective pot is less than 3, which means that my ace high, it's possible to just go, thrashing through with double barrel, triple barrel, and that's kind of what I decided to do here, is to bet with the intention of betting again. Even on this board against one opponent, I'm c-betting. He calls. I'm not too happy that he calls, but the turn card hasn't improved many of his hands. If he's got a drawing hand or 2 overcards, he's struggling. So I'm just going to keep going. I keep going, and he folds out. Of course, at this point, he's probably folding out a lot of his weaker hands, small pocket pairs, some of his drawing hands, and he may call with strong aces. So I'm get some value with this double barrel. But the important thing is to continue with the aggression, regardless of whether you're hitting that board or not. Against one opponent, it's usually worthwhile keeping up with the aggression. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got time to go into super detail on this hand, but hopefully it's given you a taster for how to play ace-king on a misflop with super aggression. My name's Ben Hales with Transform My Poker. Do your stuff with the Facebook likes, add your questions and comments. Cheers.